All right, guys, welcome to another video. And today I'm talking about non-degenerate dating advice, a no-nonsense guide to actual courtship. It's amazing that there is really nothing out there that walks a man through the steps in a non-degenerate, non-promiscuous, non-play the field type of route. And the only places that do are typically way over the top, effeminate. So the red pill guys, I can already hear them seething. I can already hear them screaming. I can already hear them saying all kinds of dumb butt hurt bullshit. But it's okay. This video is not for those guys. This video is for men looking for a wife to court and eventually start a family with. So I'm going to try to break this up into a couple of different parts here. This is based off a lot of my experience with my coaching clients and a lot of guys. Really, this is designed to get guys out of their freaking heads, because so many guys are overthinking this process where you just have to have a basic understanding of how to speak like a normal human being. And this is a key piece: taking women off of a pedestal. Listen, man, we're all created equal in God's image, and so looking at this woman as like this, oh, she's just so above me. How could I ever be with her? It's just nonsense, man. And it's going to come through in your frame when you're speaking to her. So here's a practical guide on how to actually get to that point where you could see her as a wife and then actually achieving that destination. Even though marriage is not a destination, to me, it's just the beginning. But you understand what I'm trying to say there. So step one, and this is where so many guys get lost in the weeds, because there's a fear of women. There's a fear of being told no, which I don't really understand. Men, you got to face the reality that you may be told no once, twice, a dozen times, but it doesn't really speak to anything about you as a man. Okay, all that stuff is practice. All that stuff is repetition, so you can refine your process. You can be less of a socially inept weirdo. But real talk, a couple of things: don't be on dating apps. There are some non-degenerate dating apps out there. The Courtship network is pretty good. Hinge is decent. It's not to say that you can't find a wife on Tinder or Bumble. I know several people have very successful, beautiful marriages, but typically you're not going to find those type of women on those apps. So I would say stay away from that. And obviously stay away from clubs, stay away from bars, stay away from that whole scene. You're not going to find anybody really wholesome there. Maybe, but okay, the exception doesn't explain the rule here. So if it's not a non-degenerate dating app, and I do strongly suggest just staying away from dating apps in general, it's going to be just in a sort of cold approach fashion or through your friends. Now, a lot of guys are waiting in perpetuity for their friends to introduce them to a woman, and sometimes that never happens. So you have to take this, you have to take the initiative for yourself. And you also can't expect a woman to, even though sometimes it's great when God gives you an underhand throw when a woman actually approaches you, unless you're super good looking, unless you're super charismatic, unless you've got status where you're at, it probably is not going to happen. So you're going to have to take the initiative, because that's how God built us in the first place. So I would say, where are the places that you usually frequent? Okay, so step one is the approach. Where do you frequent? Coffee shops, restaurants that you go to on a regular basis, your church, library, etc. Not to say that the most wholesome women are going to be there and all going to congregate there, but you have a way higher chance of meeting one that actually is wholesome, has these values, and has actually wants a future of being a wife, mother, and homemaker. So that's step one. Assess the places that you currently frequent, because there are probably going to be some good women there, not waiting, but essentially there for you to approach. And this is where guys screw up. Step one is the approach. And this micro step within that is, dude, just ask her out, bro. Just ask her out. You don't got to make it all weird. You don't have to, think about game. It's just be presentable, be well dressed, smell good, have your hair done right, and walk up to her and say, hey, listen, my name is whatever. I'd love to take you out on a date sometime, or I'd like to take you out for coffee sometime. That's not that hard. That's not that hard at all. In my past, when I was, dating women, I would literally just go up to them and say, hey, listen, I think you're beautiful and I want to take you out. And you know what? Most of the time, it worked out fantastically for me. Took them out. It was great. Didn't work out, whatever. Praise God, I met my wife, and I'm not still in that phase. but really just being upfront and honest. It's amazing how few women actually get approached anymore because of this pedestalization of women, and how men have just become socially inept. They've forgotten how to actually approach and talk to women like they're human beings, because they are human beings, and kind of like spiders, they're more afraid of you than you are of them. So I would say, dude, just walk up to her and say, listen, my name is so-and-so. I'd like to take you out sometime. If you want to throw a compliment in there, great. You're going to get a no, you're going to get a yes. But that's like the first step. Especially if that woman is giving you indicators of interest. She's in your church, she's in your library, she's in the coffee shop, and she's already looking at you. Dude, she wants you to approach her. Do not expect her to do that. And just act on it, bro. That's step one. Step two is the courtship process itself. So say now you found the woman, because guys, you overcomplicate that step one. I could talk about that for a whole hour on that very same thing. A lot of guys are going to say, Mike, the approach, you didn't spend enough time on it. I did. You simply just got to approach. You got to ask. You got to have the conversation. And if it doesn't work out, oh well, find another woman to approach. Simple. A lot of men are going to say, do not approach women. And to a point, I do agree. I think God is going to have a woman cross your path, but I think to a certain point, you're still going to have to approach that woman. I don't think, at least for a lot of guys, it's just going to happen super organically. I sent a message to my wife on Instagram, for example. So like if I didn't do that, if I was just waiting for, God to present me with a woman on my doorstep, that wouldn't have worked out. So it's to say there's a couple different opinions on this. I personally think there's a good woman in front of you, talk to her, approach her, see what happens. Worst you can say is no. So just stop thinking about it, bro. Get out of your head. Number two is the actual courtship process. I'm of the opinion that if you're dating her longer than 6 to 12 months, let's say 12 months being the ceiling, because I get it. Ideally 6 to 9 months. You actually don't see a future with her, or, and this is a big one, you're having premarital sex. You got to avoid that. Where so many men, I think this is a reason why the divorce statistic is so bad, is because so many men and women too, you could say, are romantically involved, intimately involved, sexually involved with people that they are not actually yoked with properly. First of all, you're having sex outside of the container of marriage, which is a grave sin. It's sexual immorality. But besides that, it really distorts your mind. And it doesn't give you the clarity needed to assess the person that's in front of you. You don't see the red flags with clarity. You don't see the green flags with clarity. You don't see your guys' actual compatibility with clarity, because why? You're thinking with your little head. So stop thinking with your little head. Don't get her to the bedroom so you can see and assess this woman for who she is, okay? Because a lot of guys, myself included in the past, you will make concessions for low quality women where you would never have made concessions because she's good in bed. So if there's one thing to take away from this, it's that. Do not have premarital sex. Do not rush things to the bedroom. Wait till you're married. It's going to be better anyways. And you're going to be able to assess this person. And you're going to give yourself the highest probability of success. You do not want to become a statistic in this world, in this fallen world. So don't do that. And so practically, when you're courting and you're dating, go for coffee, go on dinners, do activities, but do not put yourself in positions where you could be alone and drawn into temptation, because it's going to happen if you put yourself in those situations. If you think that you're going to rely on willpower alone to get you out of it, dude, it's not going to happen, because your little head is going to take over. And unless you got ironclad discipline, which most men do not, you're going to succumb to it. And then you're going to ruin the whole process, and you're dragging another person into sin with you. And she could be the one tempting you too. But as a man, we're supposed to do hard things. And it's funny how one of those hard things is just saying no to the pee-pee. And a lot of guys don't know how to say no to the pee-pee, and they need to know how to actually control the pee-pee and say no to the pee-pee, because the pee-pee leads you down some roads of destruction oftentimes. So if you're going to take anything away from this, it's that. So 6 to 9 months, courtship process. Avoid situations where you could be tempted, lured into temptation, having sex, so you actually see the person in front of you and actually assess them. So after this time has lapsed, you can see a future with them. You guys have assessed mutual values. You both value God. She values being a wife, mother, a homemaker. You value being protector, provider, prophet, priest of your home. Then there's no reason after that 6 to 9 month point, no matter where you're at financially as a man, okay, you don't have to have it all together, but you have to have a vision, and you have to be a man in motion. So you don't have to be the richest guy. A lot of guys get caught up in the weeds here, because in the red pill space, it says women want men that are at the finish line. Yeah, if you're talking about just purely vapid, vacuous, hypergamous women that don't have God at the foundation of their lives, sure. Gold diggers, sure. But a good woman is able to see your potential. So if you're a man in motion, if you're not the basement dwelling video game nerd with Cheeto dust in his friggin' belly button, and you're pursuing things, you don't have to be the richest, you don't have to be the best looking, you don't have to be in the best shape, but those are all things that you should be pursuing. She needs to see that you're in motion. That gives her some sense of safety, security, stability in the future that you guys are going to create together. You don't have to be the man in motion. You don't have to buy an insanely expensive ring. If you can afford something that's a little bit nicer, sure, but there's this whole idea of spending 3 months of your earnings on a ring. That is absurd. That is absurd. I don't even want to tell you how much that would be if I had to go back and do that with my wife. Makes no sense. Okay. And it doesn't make sense for most guys. I don't care if you're making good money or not. Find something that's within your budget that's nice, because it's about the symbolism. Okay. Diamond's just a dusty rock that we have marketed to hell and thinking that it's a thing. Listen, guys, biblically, vows, rings, big weddings, not a thing. Okay. Find a ring that's reasonable budget for you, propose to her. And instead of waiting multiple years and planning this big party, listen, I know every woman wants a nice, big, beautiful wedding. Still have a party if you want. I would strongly suggest not spending so much money on it. And instead, what me and my wife did is that we purchased a home. Instead of having a huge wedding, we eloped. I strongly suggest, especially if you're feeling tempted to have sex before marriage, but you can see a future with this person. Don't just rush into marriage because you want to have sex. Is elope. Sign the papers, move in together. Don't move in before you guys get married. I think if you're going to move in within about 3 to 5 months of getting married. That's what I did with my wife. And statistically, couples that cohabitate before marriage have a higher likelihood of divorce. So again, setting yourself up for success. No premarital sex. No cohabitation right before you actually get married. That would be a suitable time. And then from there, inside that, like I said, 6 to 12 month period, you get married, you tie the knot, you move in together. If you guys want to have a small get together, do that. But I would strongly suggest, keeping your money and actually doing something with it, like purchasing a home, purchasing a vehicle, something that's actually going to propel your lives as a couple. And then from there, be fruitful and multiply. So it's really not that complicated. Guys, get in their head. And another common question that I get is, how do I know that we're together? And guys, again, get out of your damn heads, okay? I know men that have, after a couple months of dating, have asked, hey, so what are we doing? The red pill space suggests that you wait till the girl initiates it. Sure, you could do that. With my wife and I, there wasn't an explicit conversation really. It was implied after a few months that, okay, yeah, we're exclusive. And, I made a joke one day and I looked at her, I said, you're mine now. Okay, so great. That was the stamp of actually being together. But if you want to have the conversation, guys, it just really depends on the frame in which you approach the conversation. So if you don't be a little bitch about it, approach her and say, hey, listen, like, you're my girlfriend now. Okay. But if you call her your girlfriend past 12 months, you're a weirdo and you're a beta. Just want to put that out there. But don't overthink this stuff. Really, it's a pretty simple process. Okay. And if you already have your fitness together, if you're on your way to building a better financial future, if you're getting your life in order, speaking to a woman shouldn't be that hard. Step one, approach, ask her out. She says no, ask somebody else out. And, put yourself in positions where you can be exposed to other people to have this kind of social interaction as well. Because staying in your basement and waiting for God to present you a wife is not going to happen. After the approach, just to summarize all this stuff, date her, court her, all of these things. Avoid, sexual temptation. A lot of questions I get specifically from Christians is, should it be hold hands? Should we kiss? A lot of guys say no. Man, I think you have to hold hands. Like, there's got to be some affection. And again, as long as you're not like trying to isolate yourself so you guys could have premarital sex, there's got to be some kind of, I think, romance there. You call me wrong, hold hands, kiss. Maybe don't make out if you can hold it, obviously, because that's just going to lead you down. That's like one step further down the road to actually having, sex. But yeah, hold hands, hold her, make her feel like a woman, feel like a man in that process. And after that 6 to 9 months, you can see she's got a good, good quality. She's got a good head on her shoulders. You see a future with her. Just marry her, bro. Don't play house with your girlfriend. Put a ring on it. Whatever you can afford. Tie the knot. Do the thing. Become evenly yoked. Enjoy the spoils of sex within the container of marriage, and then be fruitful and multiply. There's a lot of things guys get hung up on, but really this is the process. This is the exact process I took with my wife. We got married within 8 or 9 months of dating because I already saw a clear future with her. And I knew that it was going to be a fruitful future. And it, praise God, by the glory of God, it is a fruitful future. So don't get caught up in the weeds. Do not consume all this red pill nonsense telling you what you should and shouldn't do. Approach her, date her for some time, don't have sex, put a ring on it, get married. And the not having sex part is huge because you can actually see and assess the person for who she is. And a lot of the stuff, ladies, you could probably apply to yourself as well. Okay, you want to really test the metal of a guy. If you want to really see what he's made out of, see if he respects not having sex before marriage. And if he does, he's probably a guy worth your time. So that's it. If you have any questions, leave them below. Otherwise, God bless.